guys, it's Annie. I'm back again with another video. I'm filming it on my phone today, so just to see if the quality is any better or worse, so let me know what you think if you notice a difference. But yeah, today's video is kind of a seasonal one because we are approaching Christmas, but it's also something that you can use the rest of the year round as well. But I know that particularly the Christmas season is a time for calligraphy and creativity and going the extra mile, so that's why I thought I'd put this video together today. So today I'm actually going to show you exactly how to letter inside your Christmas cards. But I don't know about you, but I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so once I've bought these beautiful cards, I just want to make the inside just as beautiful. So when I write my Christmas cards, or any cards, I tend to use a few lettering styles I've picked up over the year because I just think it's nice for the inside to be just as impactful. So today I'll be sharing a few lettering techniques for beginners or people who have done a little bit of lettering or maybe purchased a brush pen before but maybe don't really know the ins and outs. This is just the way that I do it. I'm not like a super professional calligrapher who has like hundreds of years of experience, but this is just what I've picked up over the years from teaching myself to brush letter and a bit of calligraphy. And I'll be demonstrating these techniques today on a few slight seconds of my Christmas card designs because I have loads of these left over, and what better way to show you how to letter a Christmas card than in a Christmas card. But if you do like any of the designs that I've posted today or in this video, you can visit the whole collection over at my website, which is anniedornansmith.co.uk, and there will be a link right at the top that says Christmas, or if you're watching this at any other time, you can just go ahead and search in the search bar for Christmas. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more on how to make some beautiful lettering for your Christmas cards or any cards this year, pay attention and we'll get right into it. So first let's start with some pens. My very fave is this Kuretake like brush pen. I recommend that you use brush pens for the best effect, and it's what most people use to do brush lettering, obviously, to do nice calligraphy or calligraphy pens. I have a few here. This is a Posca brush pen. Usually they make paint pens, but this one has a brush nib. And another one that I like to use is this one, which is a Pentel Touch. So it's actually a Japanese pen, but you can get these all over Amazon and stuff, which is why I use them so much. And these two are probably my favourites because they come in such small sizes, so you can do more thin, elegant lettering. So the reason why these work is because they have actual brush or soft tipped ends that are like brushes, so they give that brush effect naturally. But if you don't have one of those, you can still replicate the effect with something like a fine liner. So if you don't have brush pens and you're not sure if you want to go out and buy some, if you have anything like this, which is just a fine liner pen, you can kind of create a similar effect using these. Obviously it's not going to be as natural as the brush pens, but you will get something similar. So let's start with the absolute beginner basics. So I'm just going to use this fine liner pen to begin with. So the general idea behind calligraphy is that most letters are joined, and also that the downstrokes are thick, the upstrokes are thin. Now it's going to be really helpful for you to look online or look at old packaging or current packaging that has calligraphy on it for inspiration for how to do your letters. For instance, this more like old-fashioned R shape that I tend to use, or like the kind of S shape you should use, and also places where you can do loops, such as the top of tall letters or the bottom of long letters. To begin with, I'm just going to show you with a fine liner the way we can kind of fake the look. So let's begin by writing Merry Christmas. So this is how I like to draw my M's, but you could start it in a few different ways. So the first tip is obviously to join your letters and just take it slow. So a lot of this will just be practice and looking at different styles online to see how you want to write different words. So you could just leave it like that, or we're going to fill in the downstrokes to make it look a little bit more calligraphy-like. And remember, there's like a million different ways that you could draw your M's, so you could start with a loop here. You can do whatever you like. That might be a little bit much though. So yeah, we're just going to fill in these downstrokes here. Now I'm actually going to work this way. That's because I'm left-handed and I hate smudging stuff, but if you're right-handed you can just work the right way. So we need to remember which way we drew these letters. So we're going to go down here, and the idea, hold on, let's zoom in a second. The idea here is that you don't want a big thick line, you want to sort of taper it off where you would naturally start bringing the brush back up again if you were using a brush pen. And we'll do the same for this downstroke here. So now that you see what I mean in as far as you can kind of replicate sort of the effect of a brush lettering, I'm actually going to use my brush pens just because I'm more comfortable using them to show you the rest of my tips, but these do apply if you are using a fine liner as well. And remember, you can always leave it in this fine liner like style. I still think this looks really nice, it just depends what you prefer. But anyway, moving on to my tips which apply to all kinds of lettering. So my next tip for beautiful calligraphy is to consider the baseline. So the baseline is essentially the invisible line that your calligraphy or brush lettering is written on. So you could have sort of a straight line traditionally, or you could have a moving baseline, which is a lot more contemporary, I think, or you could have slanting upwards or slanting downwards or whatever. So I'm going to give you an example. So first up is a horizontal straight baseline. So let's go with Mary again, can't go wrong. So obviously, oh I smudged it, see, left-handed problems. Obviously, you can still go with all the fancy flourishes, but you can see that it's generally written on sort of invisible straight line there. Now let's go with a kind of moving baseline. So here we're imagining a more moving line, and this I think will just take a lot of practice, but you'll get there in the end. I think a lot of calligraphers use this a lot more at the moment, but as you can see there's a lot less rules about what sort of sizes and shapes things should be, and it does definitely make for a different, like slightly more unusual calligraphy. I don't use this as much as I used to, and I do prefer to use it actually with larger brushes like this, but just easier to show you with one of these smaller brushes. And finally, so if we use maybe a kind of slanted baseline like this, obviously we won't be writing that way, we'll be writing this way, which is something I've been a big fan of at the moment. I think just because it has that like old school like 1950s kind of feel. I don't really know why, but yeah, I'm just going to demonstrate that with the same word here. we're just following kind of invisible line upwards. A little twinkly star there. And again, you can kind of see how we're sort of written on that invisible line there. Here we can see the straight baseline, which is written on a sort of invisible straight line, a moving baseline, which is anywhere you want it to be, and a horizontal baseline. And you can use any of these, whatever you prefer. It's obviously going to take a lot of practice. Even this takes quite a lot of practice because, especially when you're left-handed, you're covering the last letter, and it's honestly quite difficult to create a sort of perfectly straight line. But the more you practice, the better you'll get, the more similar your letters will look. And like realistically, even mine don't look that great. But every day is like a practice. So for my next tip, I think we might move on to actual cards now. So I'm just using a second of one of my Merry and Bright Galaxy designs. And for this tip, we are gonna talk about placement and sizing. So personally for me, I like to put the main message in quite large letters in the middle, and then write the sort of to and from. I guess it's quite a traditional card placements sizing. So I'm just going to show you how I would do that. So say I was to write Happy Christmas. I'm going to go So that's my large central message lettered, and then I might add the name here. So I'm going to write this to my mum and put from Annie and Martin here. So the first thing I might think about is whether I want to do this just a traditional caps for the first letter and lowercase for the rest, or whether I want to do it all lowercase or all uppercase. Let's start with a traditional. So I'm going to write with an uppercase T, and then I'm going to put mum with a capital M, obviously, and then I think I might tell her to have a happy Christmas, so I'm just going to add here in a smaller size. Cute. Add a little bit. And then, because I love my mum very much, I'm going to put love from in a slightly smaller size. I'm going to do my big F. Annie, and we want our names in big letters, obviously. Gonna do a nice ampersand here, and just enough room to write Martin. And we'll add a little kiss down here. So when we're thinking about sizing and placement, I've gone for the less important words. Not necessarily love, love's an important word. In a smaller size that I probably could have done with being a little bit bumped up there. But you see where I'm coming from. But as you can see from my placement, I've kind of gone generally from left to right, with generally a horizontal slanted baseline. There's a little bit of a moving one here, just at the bottom there. But yeah, you could have it sort of all central, or you could have it all to the left. It really depends what you think looks good and what you like to do, I guess. So this time I'm going to stick with this calligraphy that I've done here, which is kind of kind of a moving baseline that kind of goes in an S shape like this, as you can kind of see. And I'm just going to add the rest of the details in actually a uppercase lettering. I'm doing a Bob Ross right now, aren't I? Happy little stars. Okay, so here you can see that I've used a little bit of uppercase, which is actually smaller, to give it a certain kind of balance. So it's not all just a huge page of giant lettering screaming at you, but it's also not just a boring page of tiny lettering. So that's why you can see that you don't have to make it boring just because it's in capitals. You can still add little flourishes, little loop-de-loops everywhere. And yeah, so like I said, it's really up to you. Just experiment. Maybe experiment on some kind of pad or piece of paper that you have first. But yeah. Now finally, let's talk about envelopes. So I'm just going to use, again, just a little second. I have this little white one, I have no idea why. Yeah, let's talk about lettering your envelopes. So if you're writing cards and you've made the inside as beautiful as the outside, you might also want to make the very outside as beautiful as the inside. I know I certainly do. And I'm sure you've all seen those absolutely amazing like calligraphy or hand lettered envelopes on the old Pinterest. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about writing envelopes. Now I'm still a bit of a novice at this. It is really hard to kind of gauge where things should be on a page. So my very first tip would to just take a little old pencil here and just figure out sort of where the center is and where stuff is gonna be. So if we just do it really lightly, we can rub it out later. So we know that I'm gonna need a sort of stamp over here. So let's give myself plenty of room to not calligraphy on the stamp. I don't know if you can even see that, but it doesn't really matter. And then you could get really technical and measure the edges, because you might want to leave a bit of a gap here, but I'm actually not going to bother. And the general middle is sort of there. And then I'm going to make sure I leave a sort of gap here as well, so I don't go too close to the edges. Finally, for this, I'm actually going to use my snazzy gold brush pen, because I think I'm going to write this letter to Father Christmas. Now, we're not going to argue over whether it's Father Christmas or Santa Claus or whatever, because it's Father Christmas, okay guys? So, let's start with his name, and we're going to go for in big letters. So I'm going to start, I just made my little mark here so I don't go too far, and I think Father Christmas is probably going to take up quite a lot of room because Christmas is a big word. So let's start with the F. Let's do a loop for the T here, and the H. Now I'm making sure we don't hit that space I've left for the stamp here. And we need to cross that T. And the big C here. Now we're just going to fill that gap there because I'm getting a little bit far from the top. Oh, we needed to loop that T to match the rest. That T, and because it's Father Christmas, I think he deserves a twinkly eye. And then we need to make sure it gets to him, so I don't want to go too fancy on his actual address, which we all know is the North Pole. So We're going to write that in caps, but we're going to write it in smaller for a bit of interest. And I'm going to use my pencil line, which is actually right there, to make sure I get this kind of vaguely in the center. Now again, if you sort of measured this out and based on how many letters there were in the phrase the North Pole, you might get it bang on, but I'm really not that fussy, to be honest. What else is Father Christmas's address? Lapland? The North Pole? Should I have written his workshop? Let's write Lapland. And then, because I can't resist filling in the spaces, let's give Father Christmas a few more Christmas twinkles. Bing. Oh, we need another one there, I think. And there's a beautifully lettered envelope too. So now, if we just go on and doodle in where we might have old Queenie here. I'm not going to try and draw the Queen because I can't draw people in profile, so let's draw a little Christmas tree. And this is what it will start to look like. Beautiful! He's going to love it. So, thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope you found that helpful, and I hope your Christmas cards will be amazing and stunning and beautiful this year, all thanks to me. If you did like this video, I would appreciate if you left it a like or a nice comment. I always love those. And if you do enjoy my content, make sure you hit the subscribe button. But yeah, thanks very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye!